White Rocket Entertainment podcast number 988.
That's a lot of podcasts.
We have Andy back to say that. Hello and welcome to the White Rocket Babylon 5 and Sci-Fi Review podcast. Now in our 6th or 7th year, I believe, having covered all of Babylon 5 and Crusade and a good chunk of Stargate Universe and Space 1999. We are now starting out our journey through Battlestar Galactica, 1978 Battlestar Galactica, as you can see on your screen, which one we're referring to there. This is the Lauren Green, Richard Hatch, Dirk Benedict's Battlestar Galactica from 1978.
And Rick Springfield.
And
yes.
Rick Springfield. Oh, there's a bunch of... Wait till we get to the guest cast. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the episode. There's a lot to talk about here, including the fact it was partially interrupted by the Camp David Peace Accords on September 17, 1978, as I was sitting there mad at Jimmy Carter for daring to bring peace to the Middle East.
But at least that lasted.
That part did. That part actually did. Egypt and Israel haven't fought since then. So it's the rest of it that's the issue. But anyway, I always say, I said this on our introductory episode, I'm thrilled for peace in between Israel and Egypt. I was just much more concerned about peace between the Cylons and the humans, right? They were on their way to a peace conference at the beginning of this episode, and they get interrupted by a peace conference. It's crazy. That's crazy. But anyway.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. All right. So let me go through some of our usual. This is episode 101, as we're going to call it. I don't think they called it that. We're going to call it that. September 17, 1978, Sunday night. Goes up against the ratings juggernaut that was 60 Minutes back then. Written by Glenn Larson, who's the executive producer. A lot more to say about him. Directed by Richard Kalla and Alan Levi. And this felt like a multiple episode sort of spliced together in a way. We're going to talk about that too. The main cast, Lauren Green. We usually do this once. So here's the once, all right, y'all. Lauren Green, Richard Hatch, Dirk Benedict, Maren Jensen, a little bit. John Colicos, Herbert Jefferson Jr. as Boomer, Lauret Spang, Terry Carter, Tony Schwartz, Noah Hathaway, Ed Begley Jr., and then get this guest cast just for the premiere episode. Here is just the ones I wrote down. Rick Springfield as Zach, Apollo's little brother. Jane Seymour as Serena. Ray Milland as Sire Yuri. Lou Ayres as President Adar. Wilfred Hyde White as the council member. And Randy Oakes, who would later be a big thing on Chips, as the lady outside the casino. I mean... That's everything from exciting new stars to dudes that have been around Hollywood for 100 years at that point. It's incredible. All right.
Yeah.
So before we get into notes and factoids on this episode, and we'll talk about the story itself as well. Andy, do you have any thoughts on just the peripherals that I just kind of ran through?
I thought... I hadn't seen this since 1978, the whole thing. So I thought the production values and the writing and the acting were far better than I remembered. Yes. This was a much more serious. I mean, it was, I guess, originally aired as a mini series or as a Sunday night movie or something. So it was aimed not necessarily at children. It was aimed, I mean, back then when a network did a special movie or miniseries, they promoted it as a big deal. So this was aimed more at a general audience, an adult audience, and it showed. I mean, there were some graphic scenes of death and stuff like that. So, I was impressed with the production values.
And I agree 100%. I'm going to get Laura's reaction, but first, I'll fill in what you just asked. It aired as just the first episode of the show, but it was a huge 3-hour special, 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, all of prime time, this one show. And to recoup some of the costs, and I'm going to tell you how much it costs in a minute, they also released it theatrically worldwide as a movie. And I think they trimmed it down a little bit. Without commercials, it was about 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think, or a little bit less than that, something like that. So it shows you how many commercials TV shows used to have, and still do. But yeah, they really pushed heavily on the idea that John Dykstra did the special effects. That was the same guy that did Star Wars. And I'm going to say it right now. This is a year after Star Wars. And yet I thought the special effects on this are better.
Yeah.
For the most part than Star Wars.
Yeah.
Just incredible. Great TV cast. Richard Hatch, we talked about this, Laura, last week, just coming off of Streets of San Francisco, where he replaced, he was Carl Malden's partner, replacing Michael Douglas, who was moving on to movies and stuff at that point. Dirk Benedict was kind of a newcomer. We'll talk about him. And then Lauren Green coming off of Bonanza, where he was a big star for years. And then a whole big, like I said, this supporting cast. Laura, your thoughts on that cast or the production or anything like that before we get into it?
Well, yeah, like you said, the guest stars, the peripheral characters, huge cast. I mean, when you think of the time, I mean, Lauren Green was huge. I mean, yes, he was television, but he was like major television hitter that, and then, even going back, like Ray Milland, like you said, that he'd been around, Wilford Hyde White, all of these people attached to it. This was big. This was a big deal and a huge cast. And then, of course, like you said, up and coming, we know, Rick Springfield, what he went on to do, Jane Seymour, huge. And then, not to spoil, but even further down the line, guest cast that joins, they continue to get huge stars from that time period. So this was not just some little rinky-dink production.
No, and they intended it to be. We talked about this last time, Laura. It needed to be the number one show on television. That was what they aimed it for. They thought with Star Wars and with what they were putting into it that it would be the number one show, and it ended up the number 5 show, and so they canceled it. It's probably the highest rated show in television history that canceled over ratings. Number 5 for that year.
It was originally meant to be a series of movies, and then they, after the success of the first movie, they said, no, we're going to do a TV series. And Larson's writing crew didn't have scripts. No. So they had to come up with like 4 or 5 filler episodes before they could get it back into the story, and that affected the ratings.
And you know what? Well, and you're right, and it shows because there are so many 2-part episodes.
Right. Yeah.
More than any show I can think of, it's just filled with 2-part episodes that scream 2-hour movie that's been broken in half. And when they put this, on TV later, they broke this episode we're talking about tonight into 3 episodes.
Right. It gave it a more serialized view or feel rather than episodic. There was some episodic stuff in the middle, but it gave it a more serialized view, kind of like a precursor to what Babylon 5 later did 20 years later.
Though, Van, I do want to go back. You mentioned that this was canceled due to ratings, and it's interesting because I was kind of doing a little deep dive and looking at stuff before we came on. And one of the things that I had come across that said it was canceled due to the cost, because this was the most expensive show, plus scheduling issues. And what does that sound like later on? Scheduling issues.
Oh, right. Yeah. Watching Babylon 5 at 3:00 in the morning on
Firefly was canceled.
Right.
Yes, right. You're right.
Because it was all over the But I'm like, so I guess this is the one of the curses of great science fiction shows is they never get the right scheduling.
Right.
You're exactly right about the cost. And that's the thing. It's that if when I said it was canceled over ratings, I mean it was canceled because the ratings weren't good enough relative to the cost. If this show had cost what any other show cost, it wouldn't have been canceled over ratings or cost.
It would have been canceled over production quality. Because if it didn't have the budget it had, it wouldn't have looked as good as it did, and therefore we would be back to some cheesy looking show that no one wanted to watch.
If they had stuck with the original plan of just a series of movies, I think it could have if they had given it a chance and then brought it back the following season as a regular series, they could have recouped the cost better, and it wouldn't have needed to be the #1 TV show in order to just survive.
$1 million an hour, and this episode we're talking about tonight, way more than that, which we'll get to again in a second. In fact, right here on this poster, it says 14 million just for this episode.
Yeah.
That's arguable. I've got another number I'll give you in a minute. Before I get rid of this movie poster here, though, a couple of things. One, it was presented in Sense-Around, and I never knew what that was, but Sense-Around is when they would add extra bass speakers to a theater's movie sound system to give more vibration. And they only used it on like 5 movies ever, but one of them was Earthquake, because they wanted earth vibration. But they said the problem was it actually cracked the plaster in some theaters on their wall. So they quit doing it. The other funny thing about this poster, I believe that part of this image here ends up as the cover of the paperback adaptation that Glenn Larson and another, I think Robert Thurston maybe wrote. But isn't it interesting? There's only one character other than the multiple Cylons that's on this poster twice. Do you see who it is? Boxy. Yeah, Boxy's on there twice. What the heck is that all about? Yeah, Boxy's being held by, presumably that's supposed to be Jane Seymour, although it looks more like a, and then he's down here running with Apollo. So, and I guess that's Lauren Green, or is that Starbuck? It looks more like
Starbuck and Boomer.
Yeah, I guess so. And then
which is interesting because Richard Hatch is second under Lauren Green, and you've got Starbuck and Boomer in the foreground, larger than Apollo.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's see. So we talked about the cameras, notes and factoids. Let me throw out a couple, then I want to see what you guys, then I'm gonna come back to me. I got a lot. This episode alone cost $7 million to create in 1978. They say 14 million. That may be including promotional costs and redoing it as a movie theater movie or whatever. But 7 million for one episode of television. I mean, that's even if you count this as 3 episodes when they broke it out later, that's still over 2 million an hour,
right?
Which is adjusted for inflation in 2026. That's $37 million. For one episode of television. Can you imagine that?
It's like an Amazon series or an Apple TV series. Except it went 22 episodes instead of 8.
That's it. All right. I wanted to get that little bit out there. All right. So Laura, what kind of factoids and notes might you have come across in your watching this?
So some little ones this I found very interesting. The original shooting model for display, which I'm guessing is the Galactica. It had been restored for display at Universal Studios several years after Galactica 1980 wrapped. That model went missing after it was removed, and to this day, it has never been recovered.
That model was right.
And they'll never get it back from me. I mean,
that model was huge. It had to be at least 5 or 6 feet long. How do you pocket that on the way out the door?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's just crazy.
How do you get it out the door? How do you get it out the door?
I mean, yeah, that is just. I mean, it was removed, and then it disappeared. So that is interesting. So somebody has this thing displayed in.
Somebody has it, yeah.
Their room of curiosities.
Van, there's a heist novel sitting there. The gang gets back together a decade later to pull off this. 1979. To pull off this heist.
Oh no, actually it would have been in the 80s because it was after Galactica 1980 wrap.
That's right.
It would have been like 81, 82.
Yeah.
Probably 81. Yeah, I mean, so
dude, there has got to be a novel out of this. If you don't do it, I'll fanfic it.
Couple other interesting things, and this I didn't know, but it kind of ties in to that opening monologue that you hear at the beginning, about the ancestors of the ancient Egyptians, Toltecs, the Mayans. on the planet with the ovioids, on Carolon, the elevators on Carolon, the floor numbers, that's the Mayan numbering system that they used.
Whoa.
That is a cool touch. That's a nice detail. Good find on that one.
You know, and also because you see, like when they were bombing Caprica, everything was pyramidic. You've got, you know, all these pyramids as their, but yeah, so Carolyn had the Mayan numbers that, which I guess is like dots and dashes. One of the other things, I mean, I found so many different things, but I don't want to take up. I've got one more that I thought was interesting. Terry Carter, who plays Colonel Ty, was originally cast as Boomer.
Really?
And yeah, he was originally cast as Boomer, and he injured himself rollerblading before production started. I broke his leg or his ankle or something. And so he couldn't do that part. So he was recast as Colonel Ty. And apparently through that entire first episode, he was in a cast.
Oh, wow.
I noticed he wasn't very mobile. He was just kind of standing there. That's interesting. He hurt himself offset and got a promotion out of the deal.
Yeah. And well, and I'm like, because I have other things like down the, you know, in later discussion to talk about Boomer, but I'm like, when I read that, I'm like, this would have been an entirely different show if Terry Carter had been Boomer.
That is interesting.
I just want to say, I love Colonel Ty. This Colonel Ty is so much better than the other Battlestar Galactica's Colonel Ty. I love Terry Carter. He's great.
He's
few
fantastic.
Episodes I've seen of the new one, which is not very much, Colonel Ty just seemed old and cranky. He was an old, cranky white man.
He was an old, cranky, alcoholic jerk.
It's like if Garibaldi went on to be the second man of the Galactica.
I almost said that in my flex category. It's like Garibaldi needed to be Colonel Ty.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so let's see, Andy, did you have any factoids and news? And
the one I found, well, I didn't find this. I knew this for years and years. The great Ralph McQuarrie, who did the concept art for Star Wars, came up for the original design for the Viper. They decided not to use that original design because it had a little X-wing flare to it, and they were already worried about the impending lawsuit from George Lucas and 20th Century Fox. So they decided not to use that model. Well, that model was later reused just a year later as the Thunder Fighter or something like that for
Earth Starfighter.
What was it? The Earth Starfighter, right? But it was called. It had an official name. I think it was called the Thunder Fighter, and Buck Rogers. So they had to come up with a Viper design after they did the original design. So that Viper design was not done by Ralph McQuarrie, but it actually. And another interesting tidbit: the F-16 Fighting Falcon, U.S. Air Force's plane that came out in 1978 or 79, to this day it is still in service, carries the nickname Viper because it was so similar looking to the Battlestar Galactica Viper.
That's awesome. It is a beautiful design. I think that the Viper is one of the most beautiful ship designs, especially fighter. It may be the best fighter, one-man fighter design.
Yeah. Agreed. I loved that ship.
Yeah.
Better than the X-wing.
It looks more elegant than an X-wing because of the streamlining and all of that.
Yeah.
One engine, one wing.
And it was very interesting when they went down to Caprica after the initial attack. Commander Adama went with Apollo, and then if you look at that thing, it's like, where did Commander Adama sit?
We have some too bad X-wings.
Do they stuff him into the nose, or?
I guess it's like an F-14 in the back seat.
A little,
right?
So yeah,
I love the starship designs of this whole series. They look lived in. There's a bunch of greebling. I mean, it's just a beautifully designed series. I just love every space, even the interstellar mover or galactic movers or whatever the moving truck
Yeah.
was. I love it all.
Colonial movers. We
Right.
move. We go anywhere.
Right.
Well, you better be. You're right. You are moving anywhere. Since oh, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I would just one more. I'm sorry, because one of you mentioned lawsuit. Just real quick.
Yeah.
Apollo's name was originally supposed to be Skylar.
Oh wow. That's yeah. That
was
wouldn't
changed
go
just
over well.
days before. So
Skylar Walker.
Right. Skylar's a nerd name.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to. Here we are. No, I'm trying to get it there. Yeah, I have it both as our background and as an image, so that's a little clearer there. So yeah, I just want to talk about the effects and the way everything looked and everything. I just continue to revel in those opening scenes where you see the whole fleet of Battlestars.
Yeah.
I know you're the same way, Andy, in terms of we love our space fleets, we love our big battleships and everything.
Yep.
And man, seeing those Battlestars there at the beginning, I rewind it and watch it over and over every time I watch this episode.
Yeah,
it's
very cool.
And they just look so good. That looks so right there. That looks so good. There's no CGI that comes close to that.
Right.
There's not a lot of miniature work in other shows that comes close to that.
Yep.
That looks like a dang aircraft carrier in space. It is for me a top 5 all-time big capital ship.
Absolutely. And the Cylons, the Cylon attack ship they are just gorgeous. The way that they flip and stuff like that when they're attacked.
Raiders.
Man, the Raiders. And they fit 3 Cylons in there. I mean, they're squashed in there, but they fit 3 of them in there. Maybe it's only their top halves. Maybe they just they don't have seats. They just put the top. Whatever. It's a beautiful, gorgeous ship, and every ship in here is cool. And yeah, the base star is very close to the Galactica for just sheer coolness.
I have the model that came out about 12 years ago. Round 2 put out an updated, just beautiful model of the Galactica, and mine's about 14, 16 inches long. I have that upstairs. It's kind of been banged around a little bit, unfortunately. What is it called? Movie replicas or something that company that puts out the one that have the Destiny from SGU that I got, and I still haven't opened.
Right.
The box is still over here. I haven't opened it yet. They just put out a new Battlestar Galactica line, and so they have this ship now. It's about $70, and it's about 12 inches long, 10 inches long. So I put it on my Christmas wish list. They had it before, and they sold out of everything Galactica. So they just brought it back, and so I put it on my list. They also just put a new Space 1999 line out that is, it's still in pre-order, but it's various types of Eagle, and then the Comlock and the stun gun. And I've already put my pre-order in for those too.
So do they have Eagle 1 there and have like little stitch marks where they put it back together for each time it gets destroyed?
Fair. They have the plain white one. They have the one with the pods on the sides and the engine on top, like the super souped up one. But the one I ordered is the one with the rescue with the red stripes.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
It looks so good. I have the big 2-foot long model from round 2 upstairs too.
Yeah.
On my bookcase, I have the Galactica on one side and the Eagle on the other. And they're so not to scale because the Eagle's bigger than the Galactica. But that Eagle, I used red paint and painted the red stripes on it because it just looks so good with those.
Very cool.
We're off.
Anyway,
all right. Here's a few things. We talked, Laura, last time about the Mormon influence of the Creator, and the 12 colonies mirrored the 12 tribes of Israel. They mentioned Cobol in this episode. I have something to say about that. Resembled Kolob, which is a Mormon planet thing. So we'll talk about that later. I have to correct myself. Last episode, when we talked about this, I mentioned the lady at the communications console. I called her Omega, I believe. The young guy that helps Adama and Colonel Ty is Omega. I believe she is Rigel, but she hadn't gotten that name yet. They just called her lady at communications officer console or whatever, but it's Rigel. And as I say, Rigel gets a lot of screen time considering that she doesn't even have a name in this episode. Well, I think she gets more screen time than Athena, but that's going to be a recurring issue with me. And it's Sarah Rush is the actor Sarah Rush that played her. Did you notice they were not allowed to show the laser beams coming out of their pistols? Their pistols light up and there's an explosion because it was part of an agreement with George Lucas that the ships could show the laser things flying in the air, red and green and blue and whatever, but their pistols, their blasters couldn't be like, you had to, they're blasting, and then there'd be an explosion. Yeah. Let's see. Talk about sense around.
What can we at some point touch on this ridiculous lawsuit by George Lucas at some time during the show? Okay.
No, go ahead. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. Talk about it.
He claimed that Galactica stole like 24 different specific things from Star Wars. Star Wars stole from every science fiction property before it. He says that the bad guys shot lasers and they were robotic. Robot bad guys were a thing since the 30s.
Well, that's just it, because Universal countersued because of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely insane, and I'm sure that impacted the cost of everything, and it probably didn't lead to the downfall of the show, but it certainly contributed to it, and it was just egregious. I thought it was just him being stupid. I mean.
And I wonder if it had to do with the fact that John Dykstra who won an Academy Award for Star Wars.
Totally. He
worked on this show. He was hired for the battle scenes.
Yeah, he was very bitter. Lucas was very bitter about that. And he claims that they used, we left equipment behind at the old, because they split when Lucas decided to move to a different part of California or something like that. And a bunch of guys stayed behind, including Dykstra, and they took over all that equipment and office space and everything. And then Lucas said, well, yeah, but you used all that equipment for filming this. And they're like, you left it behind. I mean, we're not going to just throw it away.
Right.
So yeah, the whole lawsuit was just egregious and I thought just completely ridiculous.
The story of the two bear no resemblance almost at all.
Not at all.
The resemblance comes almost entirely from Macquarie and Dykstra coming over from Star Wars to make the visual effects. If somebody else had done the visual effects for this show, it wouldn't have any. They made this. They made the ships look enough and the lasers look enough like Star Wars because that's what they did. But if the Star Trek special effects people had done this show, it wouldn't have looked anything like Star Wars. So I agree. Let's see. A couple of things here. Oh, Andy, this is for you, my friend. You and I gave deserved so much crap to Babylon 5 for the council chambers that looked like a bad game show set, right?
Right.
The council chambers on this episode was basically a big dinner table with a floral arrangement on it, and yet it looked 1,000 times better in 1978.
Right.
This in 1978, it looked 1,000 times better than Babylon 5.
It had that lovely panoramic window, and then like that. I guess you would call it an antechamber, like the beginning, because like in the one scene you've got Starbuck and Boomer talking. I mean, it was worthy of its status.
Right. And the council chamber took place on one of the Battlestars, so it was just a repurposed stateroom.
Two of them.
They
showed it on the Atlantea at first, and it looked great. Yeah. And then they had another one later on the Galactica.
Right. So it was just a repurposed stateroom on the Galactica, and it still looked better than the official council chambers of the Galactic Alliance.
So much better.
And oh my goodness, we mentioned the production values, but the bridge of the Battlestars was awesome. It had the revolving center part. It had multiple levels. It was just fantastic.
Like a giant aircraft carrier bridge.
Exactly. The Galactica was so influenced by the super carriers of the late 60s and early 70s. I mean, every aspect of it was influenced by that, but to great effect. I thought they looked spectacular. They looked more like actual, star battleships than anything from Star Trek or stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I like that we knew where it was because they would zoom in from the outside on that little boxy area there.
Yep.
And you realize that's the bridge is in there is huge.
Right.
And the shield, I love they have like a manual shield. It's metal. He's like positive shield now. And
Yep.
You know, this big thing closes and then it opens back up again. And,
right.
And it's like it's not a force field or anything. They just slap some metal in front of that window, which also makes it different from Star Trek that it was clearly a window or they wouldn't have had a shield on it.
Right, exactly.
It was a window.
It wasn't a screen.
Right. That's interesting because it's almost always a screen in these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was interesting too. All right. The council president says 1,000 years, not yarns. So they let one slip past the copy editor there. I caught that. It took like the 17th viewing of me of watching this, but I caught it this time. I think the Vipers launching is one of the coolest things that's ever been done on television. It looks spectacular. All that money is on the screen on this show.
For sure.
That they're in the cockpit and you have the sound that and then they hit the button and as it goes through the tunnel and the different colors fly by, you know, and it's awesome. That's amazing.
It is. And I love the helmets that they wear.
Yes.
Don't have the glass. Don't have a glass visor that can fog up and stuff like that. You can see their faces perfectly because there's lighting inside and you can see the full face. And you know, there's no gas like in Top Gun. They have the gas mask and the goggles. Here, it frames the face, kind of like Iron Man in the MCU. You can see exactly, but it still looks like a fighter helmet. It's really cool,
and
very well designed.
Egyptian.
Totally, yeah.
That's what I always thought was so cool as a kid. Is like, oh, they're so tying this to the ancient, you know, stuff, ancient history, that even their helmets look like Egyptian, but yet they still look like they found that sweet spot between looking like an ancient mummy, you know, and being a functional fighter helmet.
Right.
Yeah, the design quality of everything is just
the design aesthetic is
it's almost ahead of its time, because one of the things I was making note of as I'm watching it, because like you, Andy, I hadn't seen it since the 70s, and so I was expecting really like almost, you know, things not translating well or you know, holding up, and I'm like, no, the look of this holds up.
It does.
To this day.
I thought that they integrated the ancient Egyptian design and the higher technology better than Stargate did a decade later.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more seamless and it was more subtle. I mean, Stargate was kind of, you know, overhanded, you know, heavy-handed with we are the Egyptians, you know.
Yeah.
This one was like, you know, it had an Egyptian motif, and then you don't realize it until later. It's like, holy crap, that was all Egyptian.
The brown warrior uniform is one of the best TV costumes.
Yes.
I mean, it has layers. You've got sort of like the gold layer, and then they can either wear the brown jacket, which is awesome. I would kill. They used to sell those.
I saw someone. So my last panel at DragonCon last year, it was a Firefly panel, but there was a woman there in a full Colonial Warrior uniform that she had made by, I think, the company that made. I mean, it was gorgeous, and I'm just like, I went right up to her. I'm like, oh my God, I would kill for your outfit. So and she's like, it cost a pretty, but I mean, and it was like, it was screen quality, because, you know, that was a suede jacket, you know, based on, you know, it looks like a bomber jacket, but they shift, you know,
the gold,
it was beautiful.
The square buckles.
Yeah.
And the shoulder, it's got those shoulder pads, the square buckles.
Yeah, the elbow
and
pads.
She looked amazing. I'm just like, she's like, yep, that was like her pride and joy of.
That reminds me of, since I'm probably going to be driving to DragonCon this year, I can bring like costumes and stuff. So I might actually bring my Babylon 5 that I over the years kept tweaking and adding and spent a fortune on the black Sheridan costume. But the other thing that I was going to mention is they also had a cape, because later when they're in more formal, So which ways would you guys go? Would you guys go the bomber jacket or the cape over that gold?
Full cape. I love that cape design. I love their dress uniform because they have the gold amulets here, very Egyptian looking. Then it's like a half cape, like what Boba Fett wore with the gold strip. Yeah. It's just super, super classy, but still totally functional as a warrior outfit. It's like you said, it is one of the coolest science fiction uniform designs ever put on, not just on TV, but on film. I mean, I absolutely love the colonial warrior look.
The bridge crew uniforms are cool too. The blue ones,
the navy blue with the silver.
But those warrior outfits are just
and the only thing that's cooler than those outfits are the freaking Cylon designs. I love the Cylons. So they're my favorite science fiction bad guy. That's awesome. Second only armor wise to the Mandalorian armor. I mean, it's so freaking cool.
I've seen a couple of Cylons at Dragon Con over the years, and they were pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's probably a tough costume to do.
And the gold Cylon is just chef's kiss.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And the light reflects off of them. They can be different colors.
The lighting that they use, because they just sparkle. I mean, it's so cool.
They look like Excalibur in a way that.
Totally. Exact same technique. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to note at one point Starbuck is taking off his uniform and you see that it's held together by little strips of Velcro. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's probably, they probably should have made a different one just for that scene with zippers or something, that would look a little more.
But see, if I remember correctly, Velcro, I think, was very new as a fastener at the time. Yeah. So it was like new and high tech. So it would, for the time period, it makes sense that they would use that instead of an old-fashioned snap or buckle or something like that.
And you'd be surprised how much Velcro is used in the modern day military BDUs. I mean, there's a lot of Velcro there.
I'm gonna say the Space 1999 uniform just use a sofa zipper.
Right. Up the arm. Why you would zip the arm, I'll never know, but it's the coolest thing.
Awesome. I'm gonna have one day. Like I said, I ordered the replica Comlock and stun gun, which means I don't have to put my model kit over there together now. I can have the ones already pre-made, and they have sound effects and lights. Thank you. So I'm going to have to do the Space 1999 costume. I'm just going to have to. Let's see. Toward the end, we get an explanation of who the Cylons are and where they came from, which is kind of a it's kind of a Terminator, kind of a Berserker explanation, right? Organic aliens made robots. What?
We lost you. You said, which is kind of.
Oh, okay. Internet being weird. We had no internet at all yesterday. No, I was saying it's kind of Terminator, but it's really more Berserker. Fred Saberhagen's Berserker series, where these aliens in the dim past built these robots, and then the aliens died out, and all are left of the robots to kill. That's kind of what the Cylons are here.
I didn't remember that whole background cosmology about the Cylons. I thought, because my knowledge of my memory of the Cylons comes from the new series where the humans created the Cylons.
Right.
So when I was watching that just the other day, I was like, oh wow, that's a much cooler origin, much more science fiction-y origin than the new Battlestar Galactica. My only question is, they said that the original Cylons died out, but the Imperious leader, the toy version of, you never really see the Imperious leader in full lighting. At least not in the pilot. I don't know if they show him later in the episode, but the Imperious leader toy, the action figure, which was super cool, he was very rare, and I had one. I was the envy of all the kids in the neighborhood. Is a purple lizard. Mm-hmm. It's very, very reptilian, which is what they said that the original Cylons were.
And he had a lizard sitting on his shoulder. Did you notice?
I didn't see that.
When he's sitting there in the chair.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Here's my very careful, studied impersonation of Imperious leader. Here we go. Ready?
I love this. Well done, sir.
Begin. He had a lizard on his shoulder, like a little green lizard sitting on his shoulder.
I'll have to rewatch that. I missed that.
I had a T-shirt that was beloved. I wore it all the time, and it had the Imperious leader on it, and then like a rendition of Starbuck and Boomer. And yes, it actually had the face, and you could see that it was very lizard.
That's right.
Like,
Here's the cape. I didn't even think about when I got these
Mhm.
pictures that we would have both. There's the cape with the little brooch thing, and then here's the jackets.
Mhm.
Oh, I mean, those are both sweet though, man. You can't
Yeah.
go wrong either way, honestly. Those are just two. Those are both.
I mean, really, the only thing you would need, you could get both, and you just have to add the cape and the medallion. Which is funny, looking at that up close, that looks like something I'd put on a belly dance costume.
Well, you know what I thought too? If you look at the piping on Apollo's cape there, that's very similar to what's on Captain Sheridan's vest.
Yeah.
You know, when he wears the black uniform, they have those leather vests that he and Ivanova wear over it. When in fact, when I had my Sheridan costume made back in like 2000, I specifically asked them, "Are you going to include the vest? Because I don't want it if it's just the black. I don't want it if it's Garibaldi. I want it to look like Sheridan or Ivanova, where it's got those leather panels, you know, and it's got this." And when I got it, the only thing about that costume I didn't like was that they'd use some kind of terry cloth for that piping. I'm like, no. So I went straight out to another seamstress, and I found stuff that looked almost exactly like that right there, just a little narrower. And I had her put that down instead of the terry cloth on that vest between the leather and the wool or whatever, you know. And that I just love it. So, but the jackets too. I mean, man, you just can't go wrong with the costumes in this show. They are gorgeous.
You know, if anybody buys this costume and cosplays in it, you got to grow the hair out. You got to have that 70s hair. And I can still pull that off. I can still pull that off. I have pictures of me just in 2020 when I didn't get a haircut for a year and a half. I was, Van, you would have to work a little bit harder at yours, but
they do make wigs.
Well, there you go. With Velcro.
I was going to say one of the things, well, we'll get to it because it's in the categories.
All right.
Were you guys back when I was a kid and you were all kids watching this, having to use a lot of your brain power trying to convert centons and yarns and microns? Because I was like, I just gave up finally.
I didn't even bother. I was so into the show. Year-ons is easy enough to figure out. That's just a year. But when she was doing that countdown during the final thing, she said they're 90 centons and then 35. I'm like, how slow are these things moving? But the centon could have been a what do you call it? A solar unit.
I just came up with, okay, I found something. Oh, it's on the Wikipedia. Where was it? It was talking about the time units. Okay, time units included micron, less than 1 second, centon, minute, centaur, hour, cycle, day, secton is a week, sectar is a month, quatron, unknown, perhaps a 25 centaur day or maybe a quarter yaran. Yaran is a colonial year, and centuron is a colonial century.
Not at all confusing.
Yeah, a millicenton was about 10 minutes long and only used in the first few episodes. Yeah. Microcenton was replaced with the micron after the second episode. So so there is all of, on the Wikipedia under language, it goes into all of their language and stuff. But yeah, to me, it was pretty. Once you listen to it a couple of times, you kind of understood the reference. You could figure it out within context.
Right. They put more thought into the naming nomenclature than Babylon 5 did with the military ranks.
Oh, there's another thing Andy and I have given a lot of crap to over the years. Babylon 5. I remember when they rolled out Centaur, and I'm like, Centaur? It's a centon, but that's hour versus there's distance and time and minutes. And so anyway, all right, enough of that. When they show the tactical screen at the end, when the Cylons are attacking at the very end of this episode, it's a replay of the same screen from the beginning because you can still see Apollo and Zach's fighters.
Right. I noted that for one of the categories.
Yeah. Condition red. All right. One other thing, and then we'll get into the story. When they cast this series, the studio did not want Dirk Benedict to be Starbuck. I guess he was still kind of unknown. I know. It's crazy. It's like not wanting Harrison Ford to be Han Solo.
Which he didn't.
But Glenn Larson fought to keep him in the role. He quickly became a fan favorite, and they began to rewrite and reshape episodes to be more about Starbuck. Richard Hatch, as Apollo, had originally been positioned as the central star, getting the majority of the storylines. But as Starbuck's popularity grew, they started changing Apollo scripts into Starbuck scripts. Now, the funny thing about that, and then they had to go back and change Experiment in Terra, which is one of the last episodes. It was supposed to be a Starbucks script, and they changed it back to Apollo. Now, here's the thing that's funny to me about that is episodes, if you don't count them as two-parters, episodes 3 and 4 are the same story. One's with Apollo, one's with Starbuck. So I wonder if they were planning on having Apollo get lost on a planet twice back to back, because that was stretching it. It was bad enough when it was two different characters doing the same thing back to back.
I know the filler episodes, Glenn Larson referred to them as the Crash of the Week episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that could have been just that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. In between the two-parters. Yeah.
Right.
That leads up to the Gun on Ice Planet Zero. I always want to say the Gun on Ice Station Zebra, which is again what it is. These are all, All right, so that gets us out of the news and info. By the way, have you guys heard, last little thing here about news? I keep hearing rumors that there's going to be a third Battlestar Galactica series.
That's been rumored. Yeah, that's been rumored for years. It'll be like the Babylon 5 reboot or the sadly now defunct Stargate reboot. I don't think we'll ever see it.
Well, think about this. The original series, and if you count Galactica 1980, it was 24 years between Galactica 1980 and the new Battlestar Galactica. 24 years. It's been 22 since the new one started.
Right.
So it seemed a lot longer back then than it did this
right
time.
I think the Battlestar Galactica franchise has more legs than the Babylon 5 franchise ever did. There's more love for it. There's more nostalgia associated with it. So I guess there's always a chance. I mean, the last reboot, I had issues with it, but it was fantastic. It changed science fiction television.
It did.
But it lost some of the charm of the original series. So it would be interesting to see what a modern day reboot, which direction that would go. If it would go.
Well, I don't know that television sci-fi has changed enough in the intervening years. In other words, I think that between 1978 and 2004, it changed enough that you could bring it back and it would be totally different.
Right.
I don't know there's been enough change, because since the second Galactica, sci-fi TV still kind of looks like that.
Totally. Yeah.
The Expanse, Stargate Universe, they look like that.
Yep. Even For All Mankind is very reminiscent of that. Mm-hmm. So it would, I think it would have to be another shift in style. Yes. And I don't know if there's a studio right now or a broadcaster right now brave enough to experiment like that. It would have to be a complete tonal shift. And it would be interesting to see if they could pull it off, but I don't know if anybody's ready to try to spend money on something like that.
I was amazed it got a second series.
Yeah, but that second series changed the face of sci-fi television. So yeah,
it did. All right, I want to suggest, as we talk about the story a little bit, any civilization naive and foolish enough to fight a war for 1,000 years with a treacherous opponent, and then suddenly just send their entire military fleet away from their home worlds and leave those planets defenseless, deserves everything they got.
You're not wrong. I mean, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they just weren't good at it. I mean, the Galacticas are all 500-year-old spaceships, so it's not like, you know, they're progressing as a society or technology or anything like that. So maybe it was just like the Roman Empire, where, you know, corruption and overindulgence have just kind of turned them into a bunch of idiots. I mean, that's what happened in the Roman Empire.
Well, I'm gonna say it's the Darwin Awards for an entire civilization.
Right, exactly.
But I was gonna say also, President Adar, if he doesn't get blown up on the Atlantia, he should have been impeached at minimum.
Yes. Yeah.
I've led the entire human race to ruin. You're not wrong, sir.
Right. Right. And just within a week or two, you know, Yuri is going down that same route. Let's get rid of every piece of military equipment that we have just to appease the Cylons, who have already shown that they are treacherous and willing to, you know, commit genocide.
Yeah. And you know what I really liked about that too, was that they didn't have to do this, but they had Adama say, oh, he used to be one of our greatest, you know, one of our true visionaries and everything. And he's let it corrupt him and you know, made him. And I'm like, they didn't have to put that line in, but it gave depth to it. It made it deeper than just, here's a dumb guy, here's a dumb bad guy.
Right. The writing on this was deeper and better than I mean, a lot of that stuff went over my head when I was 8 years old.
Oh yeah.
But the writing was more mature and more better than what I expected, simply for lines like that. I mean, it wasn't cheesy, it wasn't, you know, vapid or you know, dumb. It was well thought out writing.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned how things went over your head, because that is one of the things, watching it now as an adult, and even just little things like there was an interaction between, you know, Starbuck and Cassiopeia, which we can get into later. But when I was listening to that, I'm like, yeah, that totally really meant something completely different to me as an 11, 12-year-old. I think I was 11 when I was still 11 when this first aired. So versus, you know, what I now would understand as an adult. And so it was interesting that with the Mormon connection and all of that, but yes, the adult themes were there. So it was engaging for adults, but yet it wasn't so crazy over the top like we have now, because everything is on, you know, various streaming services. You could still watch it with your kids, you know, as long as they, you know, weren't, you know, like, to me, even my brother, who's 4 years younger than me at the time, I mean, we all watched it as a family. So it wasn't so heavy and adult in themes. The adult themes were done in a way that children wouldn't necessarily understand exactly what's going on, but it didn't matter because it still was an engaging story.
Right. And along those lines, one of the things that disturbed me so much about the modern day Star Trek movies, the reboot movies, during the battle scenes, when the hulls would be ripped open, bodies would come spilling out into the vacuum, and then, you know, they would float by the view screens. I mean, that was very graphic. I noticed in the scenes, the opening battle scenes, when the Cylons were attacking and were destroying the other ships, that they would have giant fans blowing, you know, the crews of those dying ships. So, you know, as an adult, that was them being exposed to vacuum, and seconds later they would all be sucked out into space. But they never showed it, but you still got the feeling of doom and destruction. Like a modern day TV show would have shown their bodies being sucked out into space and waving their arms and stuff like that as they died. And they didn't need to do that. Exactly what you said. You could still, an adult would pick up on that and know that, whereas a kid would just, you know, it's just like Star Trek and being thrown around while, you know, stuff falls apart. So, yeah.
That's right. Let's see, a couple more things. I've got actually 2 more pages of things, but we'll see. I took a lot of notes for this show, guys.
Hey, my wife works till 11 tonight, so we got plenty of time.
Nice. I may split this into 2 episodes, but I'll do it in post. I'll probably get us to about an hour in, and then I'll split it and so we get 2 episodes out of this, which is fine. And our next episode is 2 hours as well, the Lost Planet of the Gods, part 1 and 2. So we'll I don't know how we want to do that. I guess we could do the whole thing again, and
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I was going to say, just let me throw a few things out here and you can react. Athena doesn't get to do much in the first hour of this episode, but cry. But to be fair, that's more than she gets to do for the entire rest of the series. Athena's the most wasted character. All right, Andy, Laura's going to look on in horror, but you and I have a track record here. We got to do this.
I knew this was coming.
It's like Veronica and Betty, right?
Betty.
Right.
Athena, Cassiopeia.
You know what? I'm much more of a brunette guy, and Athena is drop dead gorgeous, but Cassiopeia has an incredibly intriguing personality. I don't know, man. I'd be like Starbuck and just play both sides.
Gotta take both at the same time. Hey, Laura, now we know how Andy got the steam burns. Somebody hit the steam purge button on you, Andy.
My friend used to work on an aircraft carrier, and if you got hit by the launching steam, you were dead. So that was that could be a potentially graphic scene if they had gone with reality there.
Man, I'm torn because I agree. Athena is a classically gorgeous woman, but Cassiopeia to me is far more appealing in a lot of ways. So it's tough.
So I love that character.
Laura, give your female perspective on this.
Well, please. I was going to say, so no, I'm not going to look on in horror because let's face it, we are all human. And while I know you two are both married, I am recently divorced. You can still appreciate things. And so, as a female looking at the characters, they did the typical trope though. Athena being brunette she's an officer, she's in command, all of that, and then the blonde was the socialator,
the holy space hooker.
Yes. So it's like, so we have smart brunette, dumb blonde.
Yeah,
but they do redeem themselves because, and I was also reading that the socialator thing that was okay for like an episode because Cassiopeia was supposed to die. Yeah, on Caroline. Yeah,
she was going to get eaten by the bugs.
She was supposed to die on Caroline, and she was, popular. Well, what they realized is they needed more female characters, so she got to stay. And then they made her a med tech, so which redeems the dumb blonde because that means if she's in medical, she's not dumb. She was just probably and it's funny because I had. It brought Firefly because when she was talking about her profession, it was an honorable profession. It was a legal profession.
Firefly,
yeah. So it's like, but there are still people that had these different ideas on male-female interaction. So I do appreciate that they did not keep her as the dumb, crazy bombshell, that she was made into a more relevant and intelligent character. But I have my own because I've mentioned this multiple times. I have been Team Starbuck from the day this aired. Starbuck is misogynistic as he is. I adored Starbuck all day long.
He's misogynistic, but he's got a good heart. He's not misogynistic in a terrible way.
Yeah, no, but he's a player. He's a player.
Right, exactly. Getting back to Cassiopeia, I didn't think that she was portrayed as dumb. And it's unfortunate that, you mentioned that she changes background. It's unfortunate because I thought that she wasn't, I said holy space hooker as kind of a throwaway joke, but it wasn't even a profession. It was more of a religious calling, which I thought was a fascinating background. There's a lot of story potential there, and it's unfortunate that they switched to generic med tech.
It was more family friendly for a series.
I totally understand why they did it. I think that it's just unfortunate that they went that route.
Look at that jaw.
I just see face from 18.
Yep. Well, of course, yeah.
Oh, he's totally handsome and totally charming. And Dirk Benedict is either a great actor or he's just naturally charismatic because, man, did he own that role. Holy crap.
All right. Speaking of Starbuck, a couple of things I want to say. I thought this was a problem, but if you think about the kind of character Starbuck is, it is wartime, and he is a soldier, a fighter pilot, and they were could be very much focused on their own, trying to get ahead and survive and all that. And so I just find it interesting that there's the 12 worlds of humanity are destroyed in what Adama calls a Holocaust. By the way, in 1978, you could still say Holocaust and refer to anything, not just, the historic Holocaust. That changes about 1980. So that's why they did that. It wasn't a slight, right? Okay. So there's just been the Holocaust of the 12 colonies and the entire fleet destroyed except for the Galactica. And Starbuck is scamming on a couple of girls, trying to date two girls at the same time, and trying to get a deal to be a music manager. I'm like, where is he planning on booking them?
Right?
The worlds are gone. Is he going to put him on the Rising Star? I mean, what is he?
I thought the exact same thing.
It makes you question what this galactic, because they're in a whole galaxy. It makes you question what the galactic society is like. Are there other races there? I mean, the Cylons are part of an alliance. I mean, is humanity just one race in a multicultural galaxy, or what? I think you never really know.
If you rewatch the scenes on Carillon, the ovoids or whatever, they're the ones that run it. But when you look in the casinos, they have, the singers definitely have an alien look, but there were other background characters that were alien. Like one of the gambling table dealers or whatever, he looked like he had a pig head.
Yeah.
There is definitely other alien,
right.
The reboot. Go ahead, Van.
I just want to say, didn't they establish in this episode that the way the war started was humans intervened to protect another race the Cylons were messing with?
Yes, exactly. And it's notable that the reboot was strictly humanity and the offshoot of humanity, the Cylons. There was never really any other alien race mentioned or shown.
Yeah.
That kept production down, I'm guessing.
Well, I'm sure.
It's interesting about female characters. They end up because they're going to lose Jane Seymour immediately. Mm-hmm. She was never going to be around for the long haul.
She was supposed to die in the first episode also. They left her in. They decided, test audiences said it was too sad and tragic.
Well, they needed a chance to get married and everything, I guess, right? Which they do, right? They do in the second episode. Mm-hmm. So, but what I was going to say though was, there's Athena not doing anything, and what do they do a little bit later? But add another major female character, as we're going to see with Commander Kane's daughter, Sheba. Mm-hmm. And everybody loves, Sheba's awesome. Mm-hmm. But Athena could have done stuff. Why do they just ignore her and keep adding other women?
Right.
Sheba is Apollo's sister.
Right.
So, there's not a whole lot of... Back in this time period, there always has to be a love interest for the main characters.
Right.
And so if they kill off Apollo's love interest, well, he can't this is not the age of the Targaryens. He can't be with his sister. Yeah. So
they could go with the whole Egyptian theme and just go right there.
Not safe for prime time.
They quickly broke up Starbuck and Athena. Mm-hmm. I don't think they ever had chemistry. And they got Starbuck with Cassiopeia, who I thought were a great couple. And so you're right, Laura, in that if Starbuck's with Cassiopeia mm-hmm. and Apollo's wife is dead, spoiler, then mm-hmm. it can't be Athena. So you need a new character to kind of be a love interest for Apollo, and that leaves Athena, odd woman, out again.
Well, and it's interesting you mention, about Starbuck and Athena, because this, in our last episode, you and I were talking, and I'm like, how they, had to create this love triangle, and it's like, I'm remembering, why would Starbuck choose Cassiopeia over Athena with, intelligence level and just everything. Mm-hmm. But watching this episode, there's that scene And basically, Athena tells Starbuck, I think we just kind of need to like not be together. She basically said, no, dude, we're not, there's so much going on. I can't commit.
They were on a break.
And then she turns around and gets mad because he starts getting involved with Cassiopeia. And I'm like, sweetheart, you kicked him to the curb. It's your own dang fault that
we were on the Holocaust.
Right. You know what they should have done with Athena, and just hear me out on this. Jolly and Athena.
Oh, hey-oh.
Actually, I would have said Boomer, but at that time, that would have been a little too much.
Yeah.
What about Ed Begley Jr., String Bean, right? Wasn't he?
Oh, good Lord.
You mean I get to date Athena? That would be awesome.
I loved Jolly. It just he only had like 2 scenes in this episode, and he was awesome. I loved him.
He's the Samwise of the Galactic.
Yeah.
Right. No, he's
and Pippins, but not many Samwises. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's good. And he would probably seem more like one of Adama's kids from Bonanza than anybody else. It's interesting. We see the crowded conditions on the ships and realize that it's pretty much like that the entire rest of the series, and we just don't see it very often.
Right.
Which is depressing. Let's see. I did enjoy when Apollo found Sire Yuri, and he said his wife was dead. They left her behind, and Apollo's like, I'm sure she'd be impressed by your bereavement and your period of mourning.
Right.
That was a great bit there. It made me realize I don't think I put a funniest part category, so we probably need to add that going forward.
I already know what I'm going to put there.
Okay.
We have a favorite moment, so
yeah. This was very definitely 3 episodes in a way, because the first is the destruction of the fleet and the colonies. The second one is leads up to the Nova of Magadan or whatever, and then the third one is Caroline, right? So there's really, you could see that you could find the seams where they could cut this one up, I thought. And I was taken aback though by the Nova of Magadan sequence where they Apollo gets more and more nautical the longer that scene goes in, and finally he's like, we go through the trench, and I'm like, trench? You're in outer space. What trench are you going through? Are you in a submarine? What are you talking about? So there's times it's like they just borrow whole pages of script from like World War II Navy dramas, and they don't even bother to change the words sometimes. I'm like, what are you, a trench?
In his defense, a lot of astronomy still uses nautical references for different parts of nautical or astronomical structures.
Well, if we're going to talking about terms, this show is abominable at actual space references. It's as bad as Space 1999 at that, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
At least, see, it's even worse in Space 1999's case, because they pretended to be a highbrow scientific show and yet just couldn't get anything right. But this show is like, and it's going to get worse with this. I think we see this again in the next episode, where they talk about universes, galaxies, and star systems, with star systems being the biggest.
Right.
What? We're going for a whole new star system, Boxy. Really?
It took me a while to understand. Yeah, because they kept saying star system. I'm like, so there's like 2 habitable planets in the star system. That's very small in scale. Then they're talking about going to a whole different universe. I'm like, oh, that's a big jump.
It's not good. Let's see. I thought that since we're talking about the story a little bit, I liked the whole thing where they threw a whole lot of stuff at us in this 3 hours. I liked this bit where they had the guys in the fake guys, the fake warriors in uniforms. But
that was great.
I wish they hadn't told us up front, right? Because Adama and Colonel Ty come up with that, and then they do it. And then you see Apollo and Starbuck like looking around being like, who are these guys? I thought it would have been more effective if Apollo and Starbuck just start seeing these guys, and we, the audience, are like, well, who are those guys? What's going on? Is there
right?
And then have Adama and Ty say, oh, it was a clever scheme. See, and you're like, oh, I wish they hadn't given it away at the very beginning.
And they could have even still left in the scene with Ty stealing the uniform.
Mhm.
That would have been
you
even
what the
funnier if we didn't know the context behind that, you know?
Yes,
So yeah, I
exactly.
agree.
I thought that was just they
Yeah,
could have done.
they could have left out that initial discussion and still kept in the discussions between Ty and Adama later of them hinting at, you know, what was going on, but never really saying it. And then putting it, the audience could have put it all together there right at the end. I think, yeah, I agree. That would have been really cool.
Though I think the audience at the time would not have been that sophisticated. We weren't that
Oh,
sophisticated
come
in.
on. That's not true. They
That's
would
a
have. It's basic writing. It's you could do a little tidbit of foreshadowing, but then you build up. It's like a basic comedy setup. You know, you increase the content. You know, you increase the stakes, and then you drop the punchline. You know, so don't
I
give me
agree.
that sophisticated stuff. Freaking Shakespeare is writing more sophisticated stuff than that. So.
Nobody ever went broke underestimating the dumbness of
That's
the
true. That's true, especially certain administrations.
I wanted to point out that the Cylons got some of the funniest lines in this episode.
Yeah, there was one Cylon Centurion that was just he was like deadpan smartass talking to the Imperious leader. We underestimated the right. They were not as surprised as we thought they would be.
The entire all of our fighters have been destroyed. How is that? We took them by surprise. Apparently, the surprise was not as big as we hoped. That was so good. And there was one
Who programmed this one with humor.
Yeah. Well, and you see like one of Baltar's pilots is going to pop that out like in a much later episode where he's like, "But sir, I really think you should take a look at the other Battlestar."
Yeah.
And Baltar's like, I remember that still. That was classic.
Which completely sets up the second. I'm sorry, the Battlestar Galactica 1980 episode with Psy when Starbuck crashes and the Cylon there shows immense personality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. I do love it
that was one of the best Battlestar Galactica episodes ever.
Yeah,
I was on that panel at Dragon Con about, I saw Galactica 1980. I'm like, I've got to do this, and everyone's like, what? And it's just like, but that one episode that forgives the rest of the series.
Oh, it makes the whole rest of that series completely worthwhile. But yeah, it just goes to show that snarkiness is definitely a programmed into the Cylon personality.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get out of I have a few unanswered questions for you, but first, the epilogue. So originally, Baltar was supposed to be killed when the Cylon, when they say, "We thank you for your time, but your time is at an end," or whatever. He starts to pull that sword out. In the comics, they do kill him because they were based on the older script. If you had the Marvel adaptation,
Yep, I remember that. I had the pocketbook version of that.
Surely it must have been that they realized they need a better villain every week for a TV show than a bunch of robots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You have to have some sort of human connection.
Yeah. You needed Baltar. Baltar makes no sense until you find out he thought they were going to let his world live and he was going to get to rule it. Then suddenly you realize, oh, he's not insane. He's just a big evil villain who's willing to kill 11 worlds and all the Battlestars just to be the ruler of one planet. So what did we think of the epilogue where instead he lives and we get Lucifer? I believe that's going to be Roddy McDowell's voice.
Yep. I thought that was cool. Lucifer was still a Cylon, still a robot, but different, which I thought was cool. It showed the more diversity in their society. And
he's an upgraded. I was going to say he's upgraded. I mean, the whole look of him is leaning closer to a humanoid look, and he actually has vocal inflection instead of the Cylon sounding like this. He actually has regular human speech cadence,
right? Which is very interesting, and I think it makes Baltar a deeper and yet more despicable character, that he's willing to do it all again, you know, to betray the humanity again. Just to save his own hide. So I thought that was cool, and it set Baltar up as an ongoing villain and an ongoing, a antagonist for the whole series, which like Van just said was desperately needed, because you can't just have a bunch of faceless robots as the bad guys.
And John Colicos, I mean, he'd already established himself as a great villain. He was one of the Klingons on the original Star Trek, one of the great ones. And I mean, he chews the scenery in this show. In that epilogue, he is like, he turned into Shatner, right? He's like, I think as they do. I reason as they do. I can find them, And just like, oh, go, John, go, baby Baltar. You're cooking. Let the man cook. He's better.
He's over the top and scene chewing, but not in a campy way. It's still awesome. It's still great to watch, and you still hate him for it. It's not like a eye-rolling, corny sort of thing.
And he gets one more great part that I remember. There may be stuff later, but if anybody watched General Hospital back in the day, late 70s, early 80s, he was one of the Cassadines on there. He was one of the big villains that showed up.
Well,
and he was. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say Rick Springfield was also in General Hospital too.
Right. They never shared any scenes together, but they were both on the show at the same time. Yep.
And Scorpio, who later is on Babylon 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Scorpio was the James Bond guy.
Yep. Tristan Rogers.
And he ended up playing Tristan Rogers, and he ended up playing a telepath, I believe, on first season of Babylon 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
thought Colicos.
Right.
I just have to honor Colicos for his incredible performance here. I think he's great.
Yep.
Great villains.
And he did a lot of acting with his eyes. When you could see the realization that he wasn't going to die in his face, when his eyes started to get a little bit bigger and his cheeks started to go up as he was trying to hide a smile. I mean, it was really well done.
And it just shows the caliber of performers that they got for this show. That can just, like you said, just act with facial expressions and be convincing.
And I like what they did with Baltar in the new series, and I thought it was interesting that they found they found other reasons, little less grandiose reasons for him to do what he did. He was in love with the blonde, of course, and all that, but he still is as good as Callis is, and I thought Callis was great. James Callis was great. What John Colicos does here is just untouchable.
It's a different tone for sure. I mean, it was more old school and more grandiose, however you pronounce that word.
Grandiose. Yes.
Yeah, so it was a different style of storytelling and acting, but I much prefer. I thought it was more charming. The original was more charming than the reboot.
Well, the great idea they had about Baltar for the new series was simply that he's still in with the Galactica, right?
Right.
He doesn't have to be off on another ship by himself interacting with robots. Right. They had him there from the very beginning.
Yep.
Because he's more interesting that way. They figured that out on this show too, because like 2/3 of the way through this series, Baltar ends up with them. Spoilers. Okay, here's some unanswered questions for you. Serena, as the TV news anchor, she says the peace conference will take place at the star Kobol. And yet in the next episode, we rediscover Kobol for the first time in millennia. What the heck? What's that all about?
Continuity error.
Right. I think that has a lot to do with, the switch from TV movie to suddenly now it's a TV series. We got to come up with more stuff. Maybe it was spelled differently. There was a silent Q in there or something like that.
I'll go with that. Let's put some fighters up here. So, did the Cylons nuke the 12 colonies like they did on the 2004 version?
No, they went in. There was no mention of nukes at all. No use of nukes. I mean, those were all over in the reboot. They were launching nukes at the Galactica in the reboot.
You'd think that Sheridan was in charge of the Galactica, the way they did everything.
Right. This was much more early World War II when it was just individual fighters against ships.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, I
Bomb.
mean,
Yeah.
there may have been a bomb or two dropped that we didn't see, but for the most part, it was just the Cylons flying in and strafing the crap out of stuff, which would take a long time to destroy a whole world. But you know, it was very influenced by World War II tactics. You could tell,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
especially the attacks on the capital ships with the fighters.
I had a note here in my unanswered questions. I guess we can answer it. Since we have a professional dancing expert on our show here, how did you evaluate the dancers that we saw in the final third of this episode?
So I had this really funny thing. I'm like, okay, I guess the go-to entertainment in science fiction is belly dance. Because you see belly dancers pop up all over. I'd actually helped create a panel that we did once to nobody about belly dance in science fiction fantasy. And I cannot believe I actually completely missed this one and forgot about it because I hadn't watched it in a billion years. But what I did notice about the dancer, first of all, they did not mix the. I see a lot of times in shows, belly dancers are in a costume like this dancer wore, it's full cabaret costume, the sparkly bedla, all of that. And then they'll put her in the context of a traveling community, aka like the Romani people. I mean, belly dance is heavily, in the Romani culture, but it's a different style of dress. So this actually kept the costuming in proper context. She's dancing in a venue with, as entertainment. The person, you didn't see a whole lot. She did a lot with a veil. And it's funny because I'm like, there always seems to be, some type of prop like a veil or not. But looking at her as she's moving, I do believe they actually hired someone with belly dance experience because her moves looked intentional, moves I could identify without, a lot of times they just get regular dancers that are doing their own interpretation or people, girls with great figures that can just, wiggle around. This was
Right.
intentional. They did a great job, I think, even though she was strictly background, she was, there. You saw her around a lot and she was actually very accurate.
Nice.
And it's interesting because belly dancing is seen by a lot of the Western public as being both exotic and archaic. So you can insert that as an alien, an alien form of entertainment. Star Wars did the same thing. I mean, a lot of the aliens in there that were dancing in a very similar style.
Mhm.
Star Trek too had the Orion slave
the
girls and
Orion
stuff
slave
like-
person. Yeah. Well, and that goes back to when belly dance came to the New World at the Chicago World's Fair. It was, it was during the Victorian era. And so, Danse de Ventre, I think is what it was, because showing your midriff, I mean, that was taboo. So, and that's how it ended up getting more associated with burlesque and why to this day, people will still hear you're a belly dancer and think you work at a gentleman's club.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just for reference, I remember having a consultation with plastic surgeon about a tummy tuck and about when I could go back to dance. And his comment was, well, it's going to be a while, before you could like start swinging on a pole. And I'm like, that's not what I do. I don't, nothing wrong with swinging on poles because that is an extremely athletic thing. That's why they have pole dancing classes now because that's not what I do. Nothing wrong with it, but I don't do that. And it really, that is one thing I will really get nasty about because it's like,
Sure.
don't degrade any of it, but know the difference. Because
Absolutely.
it started out as a folkloric cultural dance in various parts of the Middle East, a lot of it in Egypt, but then you've got other areas, Turkey, so Manat is, Middle Eastern, Turkish, Hellenic. So it's a lot of that
Mhm.
African, Middle Eastern, but into Turkey and Morocco and stuff, that culture. And there's a variety of styles. And then of course what we see is more of the Americanized version. But dance, it is a true art form, and it has deep cultural roots as opposed to being scintillating.
But you did. All right, I got 2 more unanswered questions.
Hold on one second. Only on this podcast will you get a dissertation on belly dancing and have it be poignant, accurate, and fascinating.
That's it. You get all kinds
I
of stuff.
appreciate that.
You get all kinds of knowledge. We don't drop nukes, Andy. We drop knowledge bombs on our audience, and they learn a lot listening to our show or watching it. All right, I got 2 more, so we won't be a 4-hour show. What's up?
I got to plug my phone in real quick. Give me just 1 second. You can continue. I'll be right back.
Okay, the last couple of unanswered questions, and so they will go unanswered from Andy, is why don't the Cylons on Carillon make any noise when they walk around? Because they don't. Everywhere else, the Cylons are like, wow, 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 like they're idling,
Well, I was going to say that noise, it goes along with the eye going back and forth. So
they don't make that noise on Carillon.
They're stealth Cylons.
They are.
Maybe they're stealth.
They got a muffler.
Stealth mode.
They got a good muffler. They got a Meineke. All right, and then did the 3 alien singers with the weird, multiple feature faces, did they know what was going on? And I think they did because of the way that the one talked to Starbuck.
They totally knew. They must not be very yummy to the Ovians because they knew what was going on.
Yeah, I think they did too. All right, let's get into our main categories here and blast through.
I do have a question about that. The Ovians were running this mining colony for several hundred years. They were supplying the Cylons with all their fuel. Don't you think the humans would eventually catch on that anybody that goes on a tourist trip to this planet never came back before they just stopped sending tourists there?
And they used to go the roundabout way, right? Because they went
right.
the short.
Right. What did the Ovians eat if there wasn't any tourists coming? I don't know.
It's a good question. And this is the first time anybody ever set anything on fire on Carillon and blew up the entire.
Talk about
signs everywhere. Starbuck could have blown it up with a cigar.
Right, he could have flicked a cigar down the wrong hallway in kablooey.
Wow,
that's a greater design flaw than the Death Star.
No kidding. You don't need an exhaust port. You just throw a cigar in the mine and boom. All right. I think I've talked a little bit about my view. What did y'all think of the overall direction of the series at this point? Laura, what are your thoughts on the overall direction right now?
So going back to trying to reconcile it, back when I first saw it. Now it's a direction. It's hopeful because here are these people that have been devastated, trying to find what, for all they know, is a complete myth, but that's their last best hope. And so it's a story of survival and a story of hope, and trying to just like I said, just survive. And so there's a whole lot, to be explored in that whole thing. It gives them a lot of stuff to actually do if it had continued on.
I like it. Andy?
I had the exact same thoughts as Laura. I thought it's cool that it has a very dark beginning. You have practically the genocide of the whole human race in this galaxy, star system, universe. Yet, like she said, it was very 70s science fiction, 60s and 70s science fiction, where yes, it had a much darker origin than like Star Trek or Lost in Space or Space 1999, but it still had that exploration, sense of wonder, and sense of hope for the future. So the series itself, had it lasted longer, it wouldn't have been as dark as Stargate Universe, or as dark even as the reboot, or as Babylon 5. I mean, it was much more hopeful, and a much more positive type thing. Again, I don't remember all this from when I watched it the first time. I just thought it was cool as crap. But this, I really enjoyed, the setup for the potential series, and just the tone of it. I thought it was really cool.
I do have to say, the one thing that I absolutely hated was they killed the dog.
Yeah, that was before the Save the Cat was written. So yeah,
I mean, anytime I watched a show, a movie, and to this day, I'm like, if the dog dies, it's dead to me.
That was
going.
Yeah. There's a story behind this on my end. That was when my mom said, "You can't watch this anymore," and turned the TV off. So I had to sneak up. She sent me to bed. I had to sneak out of my bedroom into my brother's bedroom and watch the rest of the episode on a black and white TV. So the whole the whole final 2/3 of the original movie, I only saw in black and white until years later.
Wow.
Well, I didn't see the end until years later because of the peace conference.
Right.
I'll just say this about the overall direction. If somebody like JMS were doing it, they didn't do this with Ronald Moore's version in 2004, but if you could do the 78 version but do it more like Babylon 5, it would be interesting to see, like Crusade, what would the second season have been like? Would it have just been more of the same, or would they have would they still be chased by the Cylons? Would the light ship have changed the equation a little bit? Could they have kept the Pegasus around longer like they did in the 04 version, which is one of my favorite things about the 04 version? So I just think it'd be interesting to see what other things they could have done in another season of it, to keep it fresh and not just be more getting chased by the robots.
Glenn Larson is known for all of his TV shows that were all episodic, of course, because that's how TV was written back then. But he was also known for imbuing his shows with an underlying story or plot elements that carried throughout the entire series. Like Magnum PI, and as that series evolved, it became more, you found out more about the background of Magnum and his relationship with everybody else. And it culminated in the final season of a lot of big revelations happening that tied a lot of plot elements together. So I think if Battlestar Galactica had gone the route that it originally planned, and it was given more time to grow and evolve, I think we wouldn't have gotten to the extent of Babylon 5, but I think there would have been ongoing plot elements that carried from season to season, and things would have changed and evolved. It still would have been heavily episodic, but it would have carried on, background elements that would then surface and come to a culmination in the final season. I think it would have ended up something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Let's see. Laura, most interesting or intriguing character? I suspect I know where you're going to go with this.
I really ruminated on this, and I don't know that there is necessarily any one character at this point that stood out. Of course, my 11-year-old self, who was massively in love with Starbucks, that he would have been, the answer to everything. But looking at it, it's because we're just getting background and then the moving forward of this particular storyline. We haven't had enough character development to really find someone who is just stand out as interesting or intriguing, and that probably changes depending on the episode. So I don't really have a specific answer to that. I guess you could say Baltar, because it's like, why would you turn on your people? Why would you want your people enslaved? I mean, what makes you think that they're going to let you run this and not just do away with you, which, he does find out. So it's like, what broke in his brain to help facilitate this happening?
I had that as an unanswered question until they answered it later in the episode.
But there's I mean, it goes deeper though, you would think.
Yeah.
On his why.
Well, I did say in this episode, so I don't mean the entire series necessarily. So we'll do this every time. Andy, who is your most intriguing or interesting character for this episode?
I had Cassiopeia simply because of what was hinted at, about her character. It hinted at a greater human society, not just a homogenous human society, but there were different religious factions and stuff like that within the different colonies. And I thought that her character, I didn't know that they changed it for the second episode while I was writing my notes. So I thought that there was a lot of story potential, not just for her specific character, but for the human society as a whole. But I'm kind of disappointed because I was really looking forward to seeing where they went with that.
What changes?
Apparently, Cassiopeia is not the same profession. She's not the holy space hooker going forward.
No,
they changed her to.
She is. They just get her a job.
They get her a different job, but she becomes a medic, but they just don't reference her background after this because it's that whole primetime family friendly. One of the things that I was reading about it and why they changed, because first of all, like I said, she was supposed to die in this initial episode, and they decided to keep her on because they needed more female characters. So while her profession was fine for this one episode, the fact that they were keeping on, they couldn't keep her, as you say, this holy space hooker. So they had to make her more primetime appropriate.
Gotcha.
But she could die because she can be a hooker if she dies, but if she's going to live, she can't be a hooker.
Right.
Exactly.
So I thought that she was an interesting character because I don't think she came across as she was originally introduced as a dumb blonde, but I don't think she came across as one. I thought she was pretty sharp. And I thought she was very intriguing.
I did too. No, I like her a lot. She's one of my favorite characters. I found an image a minute ago of they had mocked up an action figure thing for her because I don't think she ever had one.
No,
but it wasn't an image I could get on here. So, I said probably Starbuck because the show. It felt like the show was telling me Apollo, and yet he was so buttoned down and kind of dull in comparison that it made Starbuck more pop. You know what I mean?
Yep. Starbuck was definitely the Spock of this series. He was the secondary character that became so popular that they started focusing on him.
And we talked last time about how all these shows had a brunette and a blonde guy. From Starsky and Hutch to Chips to Battlestar Galactica, right? And it always seemed to be the blonde guy. Well, not always. I guess on Chips it was more the brunette guy that was more interesting. But anyway, Andy, character you just shoved out the airlock.
Sire Yuri. He was such a freaking troublemaker. And honorable mention to Boxy, because what a pain in the butt. That kid kept running off. You're on an alien planet and you go running off into the wilderness, or you're in an alien casino and you go running down. Muffy was smarter than Boxy was.
Yeah, the little kid is never popular on shows like this.
Right.
Never.
And he grew up to be a teen idol. I mean, he was in Never Ending Story and stuff like that. So, but in this particular series, he was annoying.
I think we can agree with that. Laura, did this episode remind you of any other TV show or movie? And I put this category specifically in because Galactica borrows so much from other stories and movies and shows.
You know what? I have this down, but I don't have anything written for it because I couldn't conceptualize that. I didn't really.
Well, not every episode is that way, but I have a few smaller ones for this one. Andy, what did you get?
I have the obvious connection to Star Wars because the space battles and the robotic armored bad guys with swords and stuff like that. But I also it reminded me a lot of, maybe it's just because we're watching it right now, Stargate what's the one, Stargate Universe, because they're on board the ship and they're fighting for resources and they're stopping off at planets looking for different ways to survive. And that it is very reminiscent of this particular episode, where they're flying through space and they're looking, they're running away from something, flying through space, stopping off at a random planet, not exactly knowing what's on there and stuff like that. So I think it reminded me a lot of that.
And running low on food. There's always something on
Mhm.
the universe. They're running low on air, water, food, something.
Right. Life.
Yeah, all kind of things. More scenes with James. So I got that one faster.
I don't think you did.
So
I think she's just being tolerant.
I think so. The other, I had a couple. I said the Nova of Magagon, whatever it was pretty much straight out of a World War II movie, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Blow up the-
Mine clearing.
And
So
I
good.
remember that scene very specifically from when it aired. That has stuck with me my entire life. I thought that scene was so freaking cool because they had the shields over, they
They're-
had the burning stuff coming through. They were being directed by, air control, air combat control. That scene, it just is imprinted in my brain. It's a core memory for some reason. And to see it again after so many decades I was an 8-year-old kid on the couch again. It was awesome.
And then the other one I had is the commander and the colonel having a private meeting in the Vipers to communicate reminded me of Hal from 2001
Yeah.
in the pod and lip reading,
Yep.
It wasn't a computer they were hiding out from, but still the idea that two guys on a spaceship have to go get in a smaller vehicle to communicate to keep private was
Right.
was did I get everybody for that one? Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
All right, Andy, favorite moment of this episode?
Totally when Apollo and Starbuck trick the base star to get closer and closer to the planet. That's another core memory. Love that scene. I love how they set it up. I love the trickery that they used. And the line purple and orange squadron coming in, and just that reaction from Apollo. Purple and orange. That is one of the funniest science fiction moments in my brain because it was perfect. It was hilarious, but it was effective. It was such a cool scene.
If only it had been purple and green squadrons, we could have
Right.
those two squadrons would have turned on each other and wiped each other out. Oh, geez.
I thought it was a neat scene for two ships to trick an entire base star into killing itself.
That was. What was your favorite moment, Laura? And I'm going to pause after this and thank our patrons because I haven't done that in a while, and I'm egregiously behind on that. And look if they have any comments, and then we'll come back.
My favorite moment, and this has to be like you, Andy, a core memory. It was when everything breaks loose on Carillon, and everyone's running around, and Sayuri is like, Apollo comes in and Starbuck, and oh, we've got to get out of here, and Yuri's like, no, follow me, I'm in charge, and then the sidelines, pew pew pew, no, he's in charge.
Yeah, that was great.
That has always been one of my favorites because it made me laugh this time. It's just like, yep, it's like you want to be in charge until everything is, what's hitting the fan, and then no, listen to him.
Yeah, he's in charge.
Yeah.
And we were having this discussion on Van's Facebook page just the other day about Luke Skywalker taking charge during the Death Star attack, and I mentioned that's what happens during combat is the person who's got the guts and starts shooting stuff first is the one everybody else follows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. My favorite moment, there's a lot of great stuff in this episode. It's just jam-packed full. It's 3 hours with commercials, but you get 3 hours worth of entertainment. There's no doubt.
Right.
But the opening battle where there's still a whole fleet of battle stars, this giant fleet action that's going to be copied. In fact, they'll just use the same footage over and over for the rest of the series, but it's all fresh. We'd never seen it before here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that giant fleet action with the whole waves of Cylon ships that refueled, didn't have carriers. It was very World War II, very Midway type stuff.
Totally. Midway is exactly it. That was the first battle where individual fighters were able to take out huge capital ships.
Mm-hmm.
So It was very much like that because there was you'd never see a capital ship versus capital ship in this, at least in this episode. I don't know about the series, but in this episode, it was all fighters versus capital ships, and the fighters were usually coming out on top.
The only time you get capital ship versus capital ship in this series is when the Pegasus attacks the 3 base ships. That's it. As far as I can remember, that's it. That's a very good point. But yeah, I just think the opening of this show, I wish that they hadn't destroyed all the other Battlestars that as far as we knew, because so cool. We got to thank the patrons because I haven't done it in a while, and I apologize to the patrons. We've been ever since Andy and I finished Babylon 5, our show has been in flux, right? We've been trying to start new things with it, do different shows, and kind of nail it all down. And so now hopefully we'll get back in our routine, because between this and Stargate Universe, things are kind of settling down again now. So we have to thank the folks that keep this fine program going. They went to www.b5review.com, www.b5review.com, or you can go to just patreon.com and log in and look for White Rocket Reviews. Either way gets you to the same place, and sign up. We would really appreciate it. We've been doing this for 6 years now, and we aim to keep going. So that includes Leah G, Emmanuel Seaman, Rich Hammett, Stu Parker, Sech Atumbe. I think he's on Arrakis now, Andy.
Very cool.
He's given up with Earth Force and just gone to join.
Atumbe is going to ascend to the higher ranks of Galactic Society here eventually.
He will.
Or even Universal, or maybe he'll even be the biggest in the star system. But that's asking a lot.
Even bigger. Yeah, I love it. The Bookish Hedgehog, Univez and Una Luna Azul, Pete Wildstar, Fire the Wave Motion Gun, Furman, Middle-Aged Tim, grumpy old SGU fan, probably grumpy because we haven't done SGU in a while. But let me go ahead and say it. Our next episode that we're going to record is Stargate Universe 203 and 204. So if
I'm looking forward to it.
You're waiting on some more Stargate Universe, it's coming very, very soon. We're just, we did Babylon 5 in one long stretch, and I just felt like maybe we ought to try mixing it around a little bit. I don't know if this is because you can tune into the ones you like or don't like. I don't know. We'll see if this works better. In fact, here's my question for the patrons this week. Do you like that we're mixing up 3 different shows currently, Battlestar Galactica, Space 1999, and Stargate Universe, or would you rather us just stick to one all the way through and then the next one and then the next one? I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm curious to how people react. All right.
Can I opine on this?
Yes, please.
I think all the other TV series we're covering do not have the same sort of epicness that Babylon 5 had. So it would be kind of hard if you concentrate just on one of them. You'll finish that up very quickly, whereas doing it, a little bit at a time, we can stretch it out a little bit. I think not stretch it out, but we can pay more attention. We can talk about it for longer. We can.
Yeah, well, certainly Galactica and Space 1999 are episodic, and so you can get away with it more.
Right.
I do want to kind of move through Stargate Universe, since it is continuity, a little faster maybe. So we'll aim to try to finish it out over the next few months.
I like that. That makes good sense.
All right. Dragon Con Todd of the Discerning Geeks Portal podcast, Fit to be Mootide, DRKX, Steve of the Green Hand, Heather and Yancey Steingraber, Count Baltar, bum, 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 bum. I'm going to get that sound effect. I just didn't have time today. Mond 06. I got about 3 or 4 Battlestar Galactica music cues I'm going to throw onto the soundboard for our next episode. Mond 06, Drazi Purple in Purple. We are stunning. Lou Welch's Revenge, Jay, Captain Quinn of the EAS Achilles, and Justine Jones. Welcome aboard. All right. I think that we have some comments, and we'll get to them at the end, but let's get through the last of our categories. Most egregious reuse of special effects. This was the first episode, so there wasn't a lot of that, but I'm going to go ahead and say here, they did go ahead and use some, including the screens, the panels. They reused that twice in the episode, the same exact picture. And we hadn't yet gotten the idea that every episode pretty much was going to feature a Cylon attack. So what were we thinking in terms of like is this going to happen? I mean, what was your thoughts about the space battles? Were you expecting these every week, or was this like a special thing, or would you have rather had it less frequent if they didn't reuse the exact same footage every episode? Thoughts?
As a kid, I just thought the space battles were super cool. I thought the Cylon Raiders were super cool. So any chance we got to see the Cylon Raiders in action and the Vipers in action, I was all for. As an adult, I started to get a little annoyed just by the second Cylon attack because it was the exact same footage. Even showed one of the battle stars earlier that was just getting ready to blow up. It had flames coming from all different parts of it. During this attack, a couple scenes had the Galactica with that exact shot. It's like, wait a minute, they're taking a lot more damage than I thought. So, but still, it was still super cool to see. I'm all about the space battles. We'll see if it as we go on in the season if it becomes annoying or not. But even the reboot kind of played homage to that during the initial episode when they kept getting attacked by the Cylons over and over and over again. It seemed like, oh yeah, they're referencing back to the original series where every week it was Cylons attack.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Laura, any thoughts on that?
So I put, how do I count the ways? There are so many shots that you see over and over and over again. And I understand they were expensive to produce. So of course they're going to get as much mileage out of it. And a lot of the stuff that I remember. So it's like, you've got the Vipers take off. Yeah. That whole thing down to fingers, there's, turbo. I mean, they had two different versions because sometimes they have Boomer's hand in there. And so you have to have the darker hand, you have to have the lighter hand, which they did put in appropriately. But you've got, the launch and the, and the going through the tube. You've got hitting the turbo, you've got hitting the fire button. Pew, 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 pew. Those were all the same. Landing with Vipers coming back in, except for, Starbucks crash landing. The regular landings are always the same. And then the other one, which we will see multiple of, it's the Centurions in the Raiders, and you've got the 3 and the you that is in every single fight scene moving forward.
Yeah, I like that they had Atlantia Death Squad attack, and then it's like one fighter runs into the landing bay.
Right.
Wow, that was quite the Death Squad, guys. Good, it worked.
Right. But, well, during World War II, the Japanese were very effective at sending one airplane in to take out one ship. So
yeah.
But and I do have to note that there is one scene when they were all going to when the ships the Vipers were all hidden on the planet, for the surprise against the Cylons, and all the pilots were showing up to board their ships. That was it just clicked that was so reminiscent of a few years later in Empire Strikes Back, during the Battle of Hoth scene when all the pilots were going to their ships that were hidden on the other side of Hoth, and all the X-Wings were there, and I was like, holy cow, that was so well done in this episode. It was a matte painting, and they had a couple models up front that they could climb into, and it was really cool and really well done. I thought that was neat.
I like the life-size Viper that they had for this episode.
Yeah.
It was a matte painting. You could tell that, though.
Yep.
All right. Let's move along here. Laura, who won this episode?
For now, the Ragtag Fugitive Fleet and Baltar, because Baltar did not die.
That's a fair point.
And the fleet, because they are the survivors. They have survived a whole lot in this episode.
I bet they don't feel much like winning at the moment, but not being dead goes a long way. Mm-hmm. All right, Andy, your winners for this episode.
I've got Starbuck because the two most beautiful women in the human race at this point are both paying attention to him. So, I mean, that's not a bad position to be in.
That's good. In the whole human race. That's right. As far as they know.
Right.
I have Apollo because he kind of became the hero dude. Adama because he saves the human race, what's left of it. The Cylons pretty much won this episode. Mm-hmm. And then Cassiopeia wins by not dying and getting her arm fixed so she can dance around and be all happy again. So, Andy, who lost?
Anyone who got eaten by the Ovians
Yeah,
definitely lost, because there were quite a few people that got shoved in there.
yeah.
And then Sire Yuri lost because he lost all faith there right at the very end when he goes, "Follow Apollo. He knows what he's doing."
He's in charge. Yeah. All right, Laura.
I put Carolon because the
Yeah.
planet. Yeah, so I guess the Carolon and then that one Cylon Baystar because they got exploded.
That means the two-faced ladies all died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, that they had such an impact on me as a little kid. I thought those were the weirdest, coolest, scariest, most awesome aliens, and those effects still held up today.
Yeah.
With the way the two mouths were moving and the two voices were modulated, the male and female voice, that was impressive. For them to be able to dance around like that and talk, that is modern day Star Wars quality makeup. Practical.
I was gonna
makeup
say that
effects.
was practical effects.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
totally.
Because they didn't do it. So it was, yeah. I mean, even though looking at it, you can tell it was sculpted, but yeah, how intricate
Right.
that was, and they did it 3 times.
Right. And for it to be light enough for them to move around and dance like that, wearing that makeup, was very impressive.
Glenn Larson co-wrote the song, and it's on that soundtrack album Laura has, I believe, right?
I'm going to track.
Love.
I'm going to track
Yeah,
that down
Love, Love,
on
Love.
Apple Music.
Performed by the Space Angels. Yeah, and
Angels or devils?
it's got John Tartaglia, Sue Collins, and Glenn Larson. I guess those are the writing credits.
Very cool.
All right, who lost this episode, Laura? Your record album, but besides them.
That's what I said. Carolon, who lost.
Oh yeah.
I had the 12 colonies, the fleet, and
the president.
Yeah, the president. He escaped impeachment, though. I think they would have hanged him. Let them hang me. What was the most Galactica moment, Laura?
I am going to put the very end when you get the shot of this little fleet and the voiceover of fleeing from the Cylon tyranny. The last Battlestar Galactica leads a ragtag fugitive fleet on an unknown quest, a shining planet known as Earth. That is like quintessential. That's like the whole thing.
It opens with a thing and it closes with a thing.
Yep.
You have an epic, a mythical quality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have used the word tyranny there because they weren't fleeing being politically oppressed. They were fleeing getting like genocide.
Right.
Fleeing the Cylon genocide, but I guess they thought people wouldn't have known what that was. Andy, what was the most Galactica moment?
I have the final space battle because that is something we will literally see again and again and again.
Yeah, it is. It's true. Yeah, I said the whole thing is the template, the blueprint, and the source of nearly everything that comes after for 2 TV shows. So I think that the whole thing is all, All right, let's see. Did anybody have a flex category you want to use? All right.
I think we both do.
All right.
Go ahead, Laura.
Go ahead.
So I went in with the most 70s thing in the episode.
Yeah.
All the smoking.
Oh yeah.
All the smoking.
Yep.
On
a highly explosive planet. That'd be like smoking at a gas station while spraying fuel everywhere.
Actually, I put a couple of things down. So as far as character who thought they were on a different show, I had put Sire Yuri because of his, it's like when you first see him, and I know it's part of it, but it's like, here's this, people are struggling, fighting for their lives, and he's having a party.
Yeah.
This is vacation. Let's have a party and let's celebrate it. It's just like, dude, do you know where you are? The story or character arc that had me scratching my head, it was the scene with Starbuck talking, trying to hire the singing group. Because it's like, dude, you're a colonial warrior. You have been fighting these battles. Where do you think you're going to use this money? It reminded me of a couple of scenes in The Walking Dead with Daryl. You know, it's like money. It's like, what are you going to do with money in this society? That just no, absolutely. That so I'm just like,
I had the same thing. Starbuck is like running a scam for another show. It's not.
He's
like, this is my retirement. This is how I get out. I'm like, dude, you're not getting out of this.
Right. He's like Face.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right,
my
Andy,
my flex category was the most 70s thing, and I put the hair because it was all
that
fabulous.
Was Dang, y'all both
all
got mine.
fabulous. I mean, for a bunch of military guys, they had a lot of hair, and it looked great. I mean, I'm all about that hairstyle. You know, you've seen me with my long hair before, Van, so you know. But the women had a beautiful Farrah Fawcett type hair, and the guys had these flowing locks, and I mean, even Colonel Ty had the coolest fro in all of space. I mean, it was pretty spectacular.
It was rocking. Yeah, I had the hair because it was very 70s hair, long over the ears, kind of not like super clean always, looking like I need to wash it. So yeah, that was my two things, was the haircuts and then Starbuck being all up his own rear end, running his own business during the Holocaust. Yeah. All right. So that gets us to our rating. And I'll give you this. I always do, right? The IMDb rating for this episode is 7.6. I should have asked Andy to guess it, but I'll do better in the future. So 7.6 out of 10. Not too bad.
Now I have a baseline.
All right, there you go. On a scale of 0 to 5, including halves, Laura, how did you rate this episode? And I guess we're thinking relative to the series or something, or however y'all want to do it.
Well, since this is my first rewatch since it originally aired, I really don't think I could compare it to my 11-year-old self. But overall, I think with the introduction of the story, the whole thing, this could have been, and I mean, it was released, but had there been nothing else, this could have been a standalone movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it ended sort of on a cliffhanger. We know they're going for, setting it up for sequel. So this is almost basically a complete story for this episode. It was like you said, Van, it was entertainment from the first moment. You were constantly, there was action, there was human stories, it had so much. So I'm setting the bar high already. I'm giving it a 5.
Wow. Okay. 5.
I'm glad you did that because I also gave it a 5. This set the high watermark for the series. It had, and like you said, everything in it. It had the cool spaceships. It had aliens. It had firefights. It had, I mean, they had tanks shooting at Cylons. They had, everything. It was super cool. I felt like a kid again watching it, but I also saw it from an adult viewpoint. And I thought it was just well written, well acted. The production values were awesome. The special effects were great, not only for their time, but for the next couple of decades.
The costuming, we said, was excellent.
The costuming was just spectacular. Just the entire production value of the show was spectacular, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. This is the high watermark. Every other episode is going to have to be measured up to this one, so I give 5 stars.
I think y'all are right. If you look at it in the context of just the series itself, it is a 5. But even still, I may not find a 5 in the entire series because there were enough things about it that I was annoyed by that I took a half a point away. So I'm going to give it a 4.5. And like I said, that may be the highest. There may not be a 5 just because there's things about it that I just said I can't give a 5 to something that there's things that make me go, ugh.
It's worth pointing out that almost every single science fiction series that has ever been, people say, well, it takes a season 4 to grow into itself. Babylon 5, Star Trek, The Next Generation, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe. You could list off a dozen science fiction series, television series, and everybody will say the same thing. Give it a few episodes, give it a year, give it one full season, and it will grow into itself. This one, it leapt right off the high dive from the get-go. This was, you knew exactly what the series was going to be about. You got everything that you needed to enjoy it. I thought it was a great beginning. And like Laura said, this could have been a standalone movie, that you saw in the theater and enjoy. Yeah, that you would go to the theater to watch and enjoy. So I thought it was a high mark for the franchise.
It would have been interesting if they had gone with a series of theatrical movies instead of television movies or a television series. Yeah.
Oh, man. Could you imagine that if it had a Star Wars? I mean, it practically had a Star Wars budget. But if you had, going forward, a series of movies, yeah, this could have been 3 or 4 movies easily, and it could have done well.
And I mean, like the second movie could have been the Pegasus, and then like the third movie, the Lost Planet of the Gods or whatever.
Right.
Or, I mean the Count Iblis we'll get to, and then you kind of have to 4 or 5. You got to get them to Earth, right?
Oh yeah, you got to get them to Earth and have them flying on the flying motorcycles and.
Oh God, no! And you do something completely different from that. Something completely different.
It would have been like Superman 4.
No, it wouldn't. Just stop. Let's don't end on a downer like this, man. All right, so we've gone over 2 hours, but we got it all in. And like I said, I'm going to break this one. This is good. I'm going to break it right in half. We'll have 2 audio episodes going up. I'll just reschedule a little bit. But the video for this, the 2-hour thing, will go up on the Patreon. Oh, I forgot. We had a couple of comments. All right. So for the Battlestar Galactica intro episode, Steve of the Green Hand said, this should be my first watch through, so I'm excited for this. I've seen a couple of episodes here and there, and obviously I've seen a remake, which I loved. I can't wait to dive into this. Let's go. Well, here we go. Side note, I had to rent it because I don't see it on any streaming services. My first introduction to the show was obviously through the 2000 version, but I love the similarities, and I'm only 41 minutes in than the 205 minutes, and I can see how Van can hum this soundtrack. Yeah, exactly. It's got a great hummable.
It's not streaming anywhere. I just bought it from Apple for $25 for the whole series.
It's $25 on Amazon also.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the thumbnail that I get on my Apple channel is from the 1980 series. It has Adama with a beard and the two, not Apollo and Starbuck. So I don't know if I got mine from Apple, and it's only 25 episodes, so I don't think it includes 1980, but they have that as the thumbnail, so who knows.
It's also available on Prime for $25. It's like $1.99 an episode, or the whole series for $24.99, which does not include Galactica 1980, because last year I actually had to buy the Galactica 1980 off of Prime so I could watch it in preparation for my Dragon Con panel.
There you go. And it's whatever you paid for the Galactica 1980 entire series, it's worth it just for that one episode.
That one episode. That's one. My last thing, I was going to watch this. I have the DVDs. I bought the DVD set like in 2003 when the original Epic series came out in that box. It looked like a Cylon head. I have that. I ripped all the episodes onto my Plex server. Plex quit working for me this week. I was pulling my hair out. You can see I pulled it out.
Yeah.
So I ended up, this is the craziest thing ever, in order to watch it, I took the file on my computer, sent it to my mega storage account in New Zealand, all 3 hours to New Zealand, from the basement of my house to New Zealand, and then back to my living room to my iPad, where I brought it into my iPad, saved it onto files, went out and got VLC media player, installed that, and opened it through VLC on my iPad, and then projected it from the iPad onto my TV.
First world problems.
I just love the idea that to get this video file from my basement to my living room, it detoured through, I kid you not, New Zealand.
Right, you had to send it halfway around the world to watch it on your TV upstairs.
Literally halfway around the world to an island and back.
Well, it's a big island. I mean, Australia's an island too, if you want to look at it that way.
You know, but to get it up the stairs. That's how I had to
Right.
do it. Because you can't plug something into your iPad. I don't, you have to do
That
it
is either a condemnation of the intricacies of modern technology or a celebration of modern technology.
at the same time.
Right.
Both at the same time. All right, gang. We've used up enough of everybody's time. Let's go out of here. I appreciate your indulgence in giving me 2.5 hours of your day here to get this done. We're going to wrap up, and we will see you guys, I guess, next in a couple of weeks. We're going to do Stargate Universe 203, 204, which should be fun. And then we'll be back a couple of weeks after that to look at Lost Planet of the Gods, the Cobalt two-parter. So thank you, guys. Frack and Felger Carb, and I'll see you in a few centons, right?
All right. Take care, guys. This was